Hey y'all, my name is Haley Sloan. I am one of the pastors to college students here at Highland Park United Methodist Church. I have the honor to work with our incredible college students within the ministry Wesley House, and I am so pumped to be here today to continue on through our Matthew reading plan and to dive deeper into chapter 12. So chapter 12 starts out with, at the time Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and they began to pluck heads of grain to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." So the Pharisees, these religious leaders, are referring to a law found in Exodus 20, which tells them that they can't work on the Sabbath. And Jesus goes on to dispute their claims with three different illustrations. He says, "Have you not read what David did when he was hungry and those who were with him?" He's referring to David, think David and Goliath, man after God's own heart, who was fleeing for his life from a man named Saul, who was king at the time. And David takes this bread that was reserved for the priest of the temple. He broke a law to feed himself and to feed those with him because he regarded their lives as more valuable than these formalities. Jesus goes on and says, "Have you not read in the law how on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profaned the Sabbath and were guiltless?" He says, "Hey, wait a minute. These people that you value as so important, they work on the Sabbath, yet are innocent." And then Jesus goes on to say, "I tell you, something greater than the temple is here. And if you had known what this means, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless, for the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." We're going to come back to that first line in a second, but what Jesus is saying here is, I have the authority. I have the authority over the law and over the Sabbath. And he's calling out the Pharisees who have become so obsessed with these formalities and these technicalities that they are missing opportunities to love their neighbors well. Jesus says, "I desire mercy, not sacrifice." He's quoting a verse from Hosea. And what this is saying, I think, is not that there are not rules or boundaries that we should abide by or follow. What he's saying here has to do with the condition of our heart. And like we've been talking about through this whole study, Jesus is not coming in and wiping clean and getting rid of everything that's been done in the past. He's not undermining the law, he's building on top of it. And here Jesus is taking this law and he's peeling back the surface, looking deeper into our heart's condition. He's saying, I want you guys to be people who choose mercy and compassion. And I think sometimes we are a lot more like the Pharisees than we want to admit. That we become so comfortable in our routines, so caught up in going through the motions and the busyness and the chaos of our own lives, comfortable within these societal norms, that we miss opportunities to love our neighbors well. Jesus goes on and he meets this man in a synagogue who has this withered hand. And again, the Pharisees are there waiting for Jesus to mess up so they can accuse him. And they ask Jesus, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" And Jesus, in typical Jesus fashion, answers their question with another question. And he says, "Which one of you who has a sheep, if it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, would not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is man than a sheep? So it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." Then Jesus heals this man's hand. And what's crazy to me is these Pharisees, they witness a miracle. They witness Jesus heal this man's hand and are not moved to faith. They witness a miracle and nothing changes. I pray that we are people who would never witness a miracle and not be changed. And what is happening here and what Jesus is doing is he's saying, I want you to be people who see the world around you, who see the people in your spheres of influence and who slow down enough to care what's going on in their lives and to see the need right in front of you. I mean, this man was right in front of these Pharisees, and they missed an opportunity to love him. How often in our own lives do we miss out on what God is doing because we are too caught up in judgment or in comparison? And Jesus is saying, be people who choose mercy and compassion first. The Pharisees are not only not moved to faith, but they actually go on to plot how they'll kill him. And Jesus knows this, but he continues on and he goes and heals more people. Verse 18 through 21, which is the last part we'll cover today, is the fulfillment of this prophecy spoken by the prophet Isaiah. And what Matthew is doing here, once again, is reminding us that this man, that Jesus is the man that we have been waiting for. The King, the awaited King is here, and he is God's chosen servant. I want to flip back really quick to verse 6. It says, I tell you something greater than the temple is here. And I gotta be honest, when I've read this a lot, and that verse has never stood out to me. It has never once stood out to me. But for some reason today, it is just glaring at me. And I think it's because of this. What Jesus is saying here is that he is more important, that he is greater than this building. And the temple was a highly valuable to the people at this time. And this would have been a shocking statement that Jesus was saying that he is greater than that. Because what he's saying is the temple is no longer this demonstration of God's presence. I am the demonstration of God's presence. I am God in the flesh, God with us. And I'm reminded as I read this verse today of the gift that we all have access to, that is greater than this, that we have access to know and be known by God through relationship. I think sometimes we can kind of regard our church building, the physical building, as the temple, as a place where you show up, you receive something, and then you leave. And I think what Jesus is doing here throughout all of chapter 12 is he's shaking us out of our routines, he's shaking us out of our habits, and he's shaking us out of our comfort zones. And he's saying, I have something greater that goes beyond the boundaries of this physical limitation, this physical building. I'm inviting you into these opportunities to love me through relationship, to know me, to be known by me, and to love the people in your life well. And so my prayer this week, as you go on into whatever craziness, whatever busyness is coming your way, that you would remember this, that you are offered something greater, and that you can lean in, slow down long enough to look around and truly see the people in your life. See them as people who may have a need. Go underneath the surface to see what's really going on and be people who choose mercy and compassion first. I hope you all have a fabulous week. Know that we are praying for you and that you are so loved. Go in peace and enjoy the rest of your week.